Michael B, how you doing? Grow Mechanic, how are you doing? Yes, first you are. Full name, how you doing? Polynesian Pip, aloha. Favor, sound check, guys. Can you let me know how the audio's coming in for you? Appreciate it. Travis R, how you doing? Raul Duke, how you doing, sir? Michael B, good to know. Glad you're doing great. Grow Mechanic, how you doing? Paul Baker, Vegas Stacker. Hello from Vegas. How you doing, Vegas? Uh, okay, glad that you guys could make it. Sounds good. Audio's okay. Thank you. Appreciate it, guys. Seems like I'm always starting off with the same things by saying things are getting crazy. Just when you think things could get crazier, they continue to do so. It's amazing, huh? Buckwheat, Ote, how you doing, my friend? Troy Rivers, how you doing, Troy? First time I've seen your name. Welcome aboard. Um, a lot of new names. Welcome aboard, guys. So we'll be starting up in just a minute or so. Just trying to clean some things up. Um, a lot of news going on. Of course, a lot of it has to do with the virus. A lot of it has to do with the Fed, and there are some fears of nationalization going on, which we are going to look at in a very 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 simple way. That being the Defense Production Act. So we'll take a quick look at that and see what the implications might be. But glad y'all could make it out here. Again, Raul Duke, Michael B, Tang Men, how you doing? Tang Ming Kwang, how you doing? First time I've seen your name also. Welcome aboard. Ark Omen, same. Simon Bevan, how you been? How have you been? Okay, so we'll go ahead and we'll get this started, and we'll give it a go. So hello again, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Silver Bullion Television, SBTV. I'm your host, Patrick Vieira, and this is the live stream where things go wrong sometimes. So just bear with it. It's live, you know how that is, right? So maybe some funny moments along the way, embarrassing moments along the way, but it's all good, right? So we're here. That's the main thing, and hopefully everyone is doing great. Um, whether you're from the States, good evening. Whether you're in Europe, it's pretty late there. Should be heading to bed soon. Or whether you're in Asia, it's a Monday morning, and some of you may be at work. Some of you may not be at work. But nonetheless, let's just all try and take care of ourselves, because as I've often said, and you guys know this, taking care of me is taking care of you. So we got to take care of ourselves, especially in these times, right? So if you are new to this channel, welcome aboard. We do hope that you subscribe, click on the bell to be notified on updates, and if it works for you, give us a thumbs up. We really do appreciate that. That thumbs up, it's really, really, really a big deal for us, and we really do appreciate it. As always, you can find us on social media, our website, www.silverbullion.com.sg. We are a bullion dealership over in Singapore, and we do hope that you have some time to take a look at the website and see the products and services we offer. Facebook, Silver Bullion SG, Twitter at Silver Bullion PL for private limited PL. Audio versions bit.ly, SBTV iTunes, and SBTV Spotify. And do join our Crisis Tracker group. If you have that app Telegram on your phone, go ahead and join our group. We're always taking a look at financial news, economic news, whatever might have some bearing on our lives, significant bearing on our lives. We always go ahead and take a look at those things. So just want to say hello to all of you guys out there. Again, Michael B, Paul Baker. Uh, let's see, 8,000 silver, 180 gold. Come on, baby, time to pop. Yeah, let's. That's always the question, man. I mean, you wanted to pop, you wanted to to pay off in a sense, but of course, it's more than price, right? But then you always wonder as well. Well, okay, if it really gets to that point, what kind of world are we living in? Do I exchange it back for dollars? A lot of questions come with it. That's why before we would always ask our guests, if gold hits 10,000, what are you gonna do? And I don't think any one of them had the same answer, because everybody sees 10,000 gold as being in a very, very different environment. So yeah, it's always something to consider. Little audio lag. We've been actually internet's been a little slow. Um, Hopefully that can work itself out a bit. Uh, let's see what else is out there. Um, yeah, don't watch my girl mechanic. Yeah, don't watch my lips. There you go. Chance the K9, how you doing? Social Silver, how you doing? Got a nice little hang loose there. How you doing? Jason Gambit, how you doing? Roger, sorry, that's 35 cents. Okay. Um, yeah, okay, great. So glad that a lot of you guys could be here. And again, stay safe. Stay safe as best you can. Let's go ahead and go over to our website, take a look at the gold and silver price and see what's going on Monday morning in Asia. And okay, sell gold and silver above spot without leaving your home. Yeah, it's a new service we're going to be providing, so that should help out a lot of you guys out there, at least for over in Singapore. We're seeing silver at $15.19 an ounce. We're seeing gold at 16.79 an ounce. Both are a little bit down. Let me make this a bit bigger and see if I can get that up there. There you go. So silver 15.19 an ounce, gold 16.79 an ounce. Um, this is a paper reference, I guess. At this point, what do you really call it? Spot price. It's sort of like a paper reference. I mean, we're all seeing this already. How the physical bullion is really separating from the spot price. So the paper reference price, spot price. I guess that's what we'll call it. Again, 15.19 for silver, 16.79 for gold, and again, our investor kit. It's a free download. Go ahead and download that. Has a lot of good information in there. If you are thinking about getting some things out of your home jurisdiction and into a safer jurisdiction such as Singapore, encourage you to sign up or at least email us and ask us some questions about that. Ratio right now 110. This is definitely a time to buy silver. I think a lot of you guys, you know, may have seen that video we just put out explaining some of these things, but at 110 it's a very good time to be buying silver when you look at that ratio. And this is for guys who really want to who understand the value of flipping back and forth between gold and silver. So having said that, let's go ahead and take a look at our Twitter feed. This is always fun. It's always some important and good stuff going on out there in Twitter. Gregory Manarino, good guy to follow. Food banks across America are getting overwhelmed and running short on supplies with lines sometimes miles long. This should be enough to push stocks higher. Totally twisted. And we saw this last week. Even Danielle DiMartino Booth, she was saying the same thing where I believe it was in San Antonio. She was saying how the lines for food were extremely long. And Greg Manarino, he's pointing out the same things that there are some very, very long lines for people who need a little bit of relief as to what's going on. This whole virus thing, it's none of our own faults. A lot of us are already living paycheck to paycheck, and these things are going to start to come out. The true extent of how financially pushed or pulled a lot of us were. This guy Arnav Argawal, I bookmarked him because he had a very touching story about he's a healthcare provider, I believe, and he held an iPad up for a patient who had COVID, and the family came on and they all basically gave their last words to this patient. And for him it was a very solemn moment because he realized how these people they're alone. They are alone, and in the time when you may want to be surrounded by your family the most, you can't. And it was a very, very heartwarming story. And then the real Kiyosaki, Robert Kiyosaki. Silver, best insurance against death of dollar. Love gold and Bitcoin as protection against now totally corrupt Fed and Treasury. Silver affordable to everyone. Silver industrial metal will increase in price as economy recovers and demand increases for e-cars, tech, and medicine. Corruption. Yeah, Robert Kiyosaki, he's talking about some of that corruption going on that we're seeing head, and I think we're going to be talking a little bit about that. And I think you folks know about a week or 2 weeks ago what I have said is the problem with this helicopter money. I mean, I get it. I know people need help. I get it. But the problem with that helicopter money is will will people be on it to a point where they can no longer get off it? And I compared it to Wall Street, where a lot of people they say like, you know, you can't pull the punch bowl away from Wall Street, and the Fed tried and didn't work. So the concern now is what happens when you try and pull punch bowl of sorts away from the people. May not work, and so yeah, you've kind of hit that on the head. Blackbeard Goat Jr. Hyperinflation will come, but not right away. I agree. I agree with that. Some people are still saying, we're gonna still go through a bout of deflation, depression, maybe even, and then it'll make a U-turn and come right back into inflation, possibly even hyperinflation. So again, something to watch. Wealth talks, meat prices already. Yeah, a lot of food prices are already up. I've seen some guys say where they've raised some prices about 30% on their food. Nobody even bat an eye. I mean, it's just. I mean, I'm sure people notice, but what are you gonna do? You need to eat, right? So that inflation is just something you're gonna have to somehow get through, and we're gonna indirectly we're gonna touch on that because I know there's these $1,200 stimulus checks going out, and then I think they want to raise it now to like 2,000 or something like that. So we'll touch on that as well. Um, okay, so let's see. Jason Gambit one free money dilutes purchasing power. Yeah, you've nailed that as well, and I think we're going to see these things start to unfold as time goes on, where you know it's going to be more advantageous for guys to stay home than to actually go back to work, especially with this $2,000 stimulus still going on. So anyway, let me get back to the Twitter feed, see what's going on. Robert Kiyosaki, yes, he's on silver. There you go. Danielle DiMartino Booth. Enron got away with off balance sheet accounting for a long time. A lot of us know that story, right? Until it blew up. What the Fed is doing is off balance sheet. The Fed can only own paper backed by the full faith of the U.S. government. End of story. Um, that is true. The Fed, from what I understand, through all this research going on, and I think you folks know it too, the Fed can only give money if they have some type of collateral. And so you got to wonder right now, if there is collateral going on, what is it? And two, if there's no collateral going on, then yeah, they're definitely working outside the outside their what they really are supposed to be doing. So gotta watch the Fed. Definitely have to watch the Fed. Jim Grant, the manipulation of interest rate is a clear and present danger to human life as we know it in commerce. Let's see if we can take a sneak peek as to what Jim Grant is saying. Hang on, let me set this up.
Making a monetary heresy is the biggest threat to not only this country but to the world. I think the suppression, the manipulation of interest rates, seemingly a kind of recondite and technical thing, is a clear and present danger to human life as we know it in commerce. I mean, interest rates are these critical prices that determine investment hurdle rates and discount cash flow. You discount future cash flows with them. And if interest rates are nonsense, if they kind of nothing, what does that say about how people allocate investment dollars? What does it say about the efficiency of corporate management's determining what is a proper rate of interest at which to choose to invest or not to invest. So I think the central banks are making a nonsense of the.
Okay, so we kind of get what Jim Grant is saying there. It's you when the Fed does these things, you have no real, of course, as people say, price discovery. And if you're an investor in the market, I mean, you're going to cheer, because you're going to see the Fed reinflating things. You're going to cheer. You're going to like that. But in the end, it's these bubbles already have holes in them. They're going to leak again. I mean, for you guys out there that have had to patch tires before, once you have one leak, it's going to go to another place and another place and another place. So it's eventually the whole valve stem blows out on you. So it's really not a ideal thing what the Fed is doing. Some guys may say they have to do it, to a certain extent. They do. They do have to do this, but to for the for the other half of guys, the other average Joes and the rest of us, it's got to be cleansed. It's got to be wiped clean already. It's the only way. So I see some of your comments out here. Let me get back to them. Roger, the Fed is buying junk bond ETFs. Absolutely. They started doing this, what I believe, last week. Um, we've talked about this before, and they are definitely into CLOs now, collateralized loan obligations, which we talked about as well. Back in the 2008 crisis, it was CDOs, collateralized debt obligations, where banks, went ahead and did funny things. They bought these packaged items, which were given AAA ratings and whatnot. And we're seeing the same things now with CLOs, where this time it's corporate buying all this funny stuff, and the ratings agencies, they it seems to be that if there's a few good things in there, two good things out of 10, they're going to give it a good rating, and there you go. But unfortunately, it's not entirely truthful, and we all know that. We've been through this before. Last time CDOs, this time it's CLOs, and we're seeing it. We've talked about it quite a bit. Looking at more of your comments here. Uh, Polynesian Pit, RCM, Royal Canadian Mint, making sanitizer. That is true. So, gotta kind of wonder, I mean, a mint using some of their capabilities to make sanitizer, not necessarily 100% silver and gold anymore. So they're doing what they have to do, and this sort of goes into what we're going to be talking about today, which is the Defense Production Act, where companies are doing things to retool and help get through this time of need, where we need to allocate certain resources to divert elsewhere. So we're going to be talking about that a little, and going back to that Twitter live stream. This is well, in fact, one of them right here. Sorry about that. Is Honeywell. So let me see if I can get this going for you guys. So I think you guys know Honeywell was they were really heavy into electronics. Okay, so Honeywell, good job, guys. Appreciate what you're doing over there at Honeywell. This one I bookmarked. Hey, it's one of my pet peeves, man. I'm not gonna, I'm not gonna lie about this. You can't stay cooped up in your place forever. You got to get out, stretch your legs. You got to either go for exercise or go for at least a walk and get out there and stretch out. And there was this article from CNBC where it's basically saying how to stay safe when people are breathing heavy while running, and that is entirely my pet peeve. I mean, joggers go by and they seem to not be wearing any type of mask or protective gear, and there was a study shown. I got to find that report again, where guys who run and jog and breathe heavier, they their droplets go out anywhere from 30 to 60 feet, whereas normal people walking, breathing, it may go 3 to 6 feet. So, 30 to 60 feet, that's a very, very big difference. And again, this is why it's one of my pet peeves. So guys out there who are jogging, um, maybe wear a single ply mask or something, because you guys are really spewing out your good stuff a lot further than the rest of us. So I get it. You want to exercise, but still, um, your your breath and your droplets are not exactly social distancing. So just be mindful of the rest of us. Again, gotta admit that's one of my pet peeves. Sorry, guy. Um, quote the Raven. Let me slip through this one. Okay, this one about food. Sorry, I just want to get through a few more items on Twitter because this is kind of important here. So this one has to do with the food situation.
नहीं है मेरे पैसे नहीं है मेरे पास खाने का नहीं है
So it's just about the people in India having a really really rough time right now with through the lockdown. Basically, yeah, having a little bit of issue with the sound, but basically what that one was, they feel that if the government asks them to stay in for this lockdown, then the government should be helping them, and that's in India, and it's the same almost in any country, right? I mean, even in the states, if the government is asking you to stay home, you're expecting your government check, right? So that kind of goes hand in hand. Um, with the virus thing, you know, the thing is this: it is contagious, and I think that's the main point. It is seems to be very contagious. Guys get through it okay. Some guys don't. I'm not a doctor on this thing. I'm just like you guys. I see the same things, read the same things as you guys. But you know, it's something where some places they're starting to go back to work, and I actually do agree with that. I mean, especially if you're younger and stronger, or you don't have all these pre-existing things. It may be time to start to filter back in, um, to work, of course, with care, because at some point we got to develop our own antibodies to this thing. um, I do think the virus is being used, absolutely, by the Fed and others, Fed and governments, for sure. It's definitely being used, without a doubt. If you say the virus is fake in that sense, I'd agree with it, where it's surely being used, but it is real in another sense where people are getting it. So you really got two things going on. It is a real thing, but at the same time, I do agree that the way it's being presented, and the fear being put out with it, um, could be overdone. So you just got to have a bit of common sense in this one, guys. I don't know how else to put it. And everyone's going to think differently on it. But I do see both sides, and I think it's a good idea if people, if a lot of us do see both sides to it. Batman, hit the like button. Yes, please do, please do. Um, and see what else is out there. Um, it's I tell you what, there's it can go so many ways. Hard to hard to really touch on that one, and I think you guys are doing a good job debating it in chat over there. So I'll let you guys go with that one. And this whole thing about the money, which we saw in that clip from India. It is. Yeah, you guys are right. This thing is really lagging right now. I'm not sure what's going on. So, but anyway, Peter Schiff put out a tweet that yeah, it's people are getting paid more to essentially stay home now than to go to work. And through all of this, we got the IMF, where the IMF comes out and they're going to speak on this, and they're saying dire economic forecast may be too optimistic. And sorry about that quick jump, guys. I'm just having some technical things here. Internet is just very very slow. Uh, IMF, how do you coordinate economic policy across the globe when an invisible enemy that behaves in unknown ways systematically erodes the very way economies function? And this is a tricky challenge facing the relatively new managing director of the IMF, Kristalina Georgieva, who sat down and she had an interview with a British journalist. And she says the IMF is now a firefighting service, battling multiple infernos almost everywhere. If you guys notice, IMF has really been buying up Africa. It's quietly been happening, but they are. This discussion was meant to take place face to face at the IMF's annual meetings, but of course, we all know what happened there. Um, IMF's January. Okay, let me scroll down. IMF had very positive forecast earlier this year, and of course now everything has turned quite a bit. And she, let's see, we find that part. Basically, she's saying that here we go. Government should spend as much as they can afford and more, but keep the receipts. We don't want to lose accountability and transparency during the crisis. Okay, this thing here, I think a lot of you guys know how Jim Rickards has often spoke on this, where every every central bank balance sheet is going to blow up, and Fed's no different. We're seeing with the Fed, and the guy that's going to have the cleanest balance sheet is the IMF. And Rickards has often said that, and then we have the head of the IMF now, and she's saying, "Go ahead and spend, 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 spend. All you governments should spend." Problem is, governments are already in debt, but she's saying, "Go ahead and spend, but keep your receipts." Why keep your receipts? We want to know what you bought. I mean, what's okay? Keep your receipts. IMF is saying keep the receipts, and but anyway, nonetheless, this kind of falls into what Rickards was saying before about how IMF is going to have the cleanest balance sheet, and here you go. They're telling governments go ahead, spend, 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 and if you look at the IMF website, they're already buying a lot in Africa, or helping out a lot of African nations right now. So IMF, again, it's a group of unelected people. I didn't vote for them. You didn't vote for them. None of us did. They're not going to have any accountability to any of us, and they're telling governments to spend. So I'm really not. There's definitely an agenda there, an ulterior motive. I'll just say it. Let's not be naive about this one. We already know where this thing is going. So again, looking at these comments. Sorry guys, just having some technical things going on here right now. Let's see. Renaissance Tech, yeah. Michael, Mona, IMF, search and destroy Africa. I tell you, if you look at what they're doing with Africa right now, it's amazing, and it's quiet. You don't hear it in the news, but they're really, really going after Africa right now. You can just go to their website. You're going to see that all the funding they're giving Africa. Let's see. Roger, Patrick, I left the shopping page, and now you're in stock. Yeah, we got deliveries coming in, so we're getting back into our inventory is getting fulfilled. We're getting deliveries coming in. So yeah, shipments took a while, 1 week, 2 weeks. I know in some cases, some mints have said a month or so, but they're coming in. They're coming back. So if you can get it, get it. It's time to get it if you can. You definitely want to do that. So anyway, that's the IMF. Coming up on SBTV, we're going to have Rick Rule. I know he's going to have a lot of good things to say. You know, A lot of you are familiar. He began his career in 74 and has been principally involved in natural resource security investments ever since. He is a leading resource investor specializing in mining, energy, water utilities, forest products, and agriculture. Rick is also the founder of Global Resource Investments and president and CEO of Sprott US Holdings and a member of the Sprott Inc. board of directors. I I'm pretty sure this is going to be a good one. I do plan to ask him about nationalization of mines and things like that. So we'll see what he has to say. And we did take a few of your questions. We're going to put it in, and we're going to put it in for him and let him answer them. See what he's going to say. So be sure to subscribe. Click on the bell so you don't miss these interviews coming up. And this week it's going to be Rick Rule. So hope you can join us for that one. And I'm going to get into the program part of the show. Nationalization. Is it real? We're seeing the Fed, excuse me, we're seeing the Fed, you know, throwing money all over the place, um, swap lines, things like that. Money, dollars are flooding the world right now. Dollars are flooding the world. A lot of things are getting nationalized by governments throughout the world, and it's happening. And I'm going to take a look at just a small sampling of nationalization, and that being the Defense Production Act, where a government, let's just call it, nationalizes a certain part of a business, perhaps to do certain things for the government. So it's a very very small sampling, very very small sampling of what nationalization in a sense is. It's a very very small sampling now. So we're going to go and take a look at this. The interesting thing is the provisions. Now, the Act contains three major sections. First, authorizes the president to require businesses to accept and prioritize contracts for materials deemed necessary for national defense, regardless of a loss incurred on the business. And it's not clear what happens if they take a loss. It also allows the president to designate materials to be prohibited from hoarding or price gouging. Second section authorizes president to establish mechanisms such as regulations, orders, or agencies to allocate materials, services, and facilities to promote national defense. Third section authorizes president to control the civilian economy so that scarce and critical materials necessary to the national defense effort are available for defense needs. The act also authorizes president to requisition property, force industry to expand production and the supply basic resources, impose wage and price controls, settle labor disputes, control consumer and real estate credit. Again, control consumer and real estate credit, establish contractual priorities, and allocate raw materials towards national defense. So going through it, it's a lot more than what what most of us thought, right? We just thought, hey, Rosie the Riveter type of thing. President's gonna call your business to do some things, and you go ahead and do it. But it does run a little bit deeper than just that. And we did see President Trump go ahead and invoke the DPA, or Defense Production Act, especially for ventilators. So we did see him invoke it for ventilator manufacturing. President Trump, this is from Channel News Asia, last week, or actually early April. So he invoked the DPA to aid companies building ventilators for the patients of the epidemic pandemic thing. I'm trying to stay away from saying that word. To receive a supply of materials they need. In a memo released by the White House, the President directed the U.S. Health and Human Services Secretary to use his authority to help facilitate the supply of ventilator materials for six companies: GE, Hillrom Holdings, Medtronic, ResMed, Royal Philips, and VR Medical. And of course, we know 3M also came into the fold too. And we're going to take a look at two of these guys, GE and 3M. I think we kind of get the gist of this. He basically activated this act in order to get companies to go ahead and help out with the effort. Now the thing is, President Trump, he was hesitant to use this Defense Production Act because of fear of a perception of nationalization. I mean, we're seeing it with the Fed, as I just mentioned, and President Trump had some concerns about straight away going to this DPA, the Defense Protection Act. As we see here, he did not want to use this right away. And I know he was being called to use it right away, but he did not want to do it for certain reasons. So, in this article from Business Insider, what you need to know about the DPA and why Trump has resisted calls to use it. Okay, and this was toward the end of March. So he actually started out resisting using this act for fear of it being seen as nationalization. So President Trump at this time, last week of March, was under a lot of pressure to use it to help states struggle to acquire enough ventilators to do the job. Basically, I'm trying to stay away from those words. The law gives the federal government broad powers to pressure the private sector into producing materials. Um, Certain people were, urging him to use it. Um, Trump was hesitant to use it, saying manufacturers are producing enough masks and that using this statute legally amounts to the drastic step of nationalizing a business. And so that was why he was pretty hesitant on doing it because of that whole nationalization stigma. Um, so he was hesitant to use it. But, nonetheless, absolutely the government can direct companies to do certain things according to this act. That's what it's there for. Now, knowing this and despite this, there were issues with two companies in particular, and those companies were GM and 3M. And we'll get back to that shortly. Just get to some of your comments quick. Tony, I'm going to quit my job. I've been locked out for a month. Tony, that's I don't know your exact situation, but that's the thing. I mean, the stimulus checks that they're talking about right now, 2,000 a month, for 16 years and above. Um, Guys are gonna make more money staying home, and I mean, it's good that there's some relief for them, but the problem becomes how do you get them off of it? That's a real real concern. How do you get them off of that? Um, yeah. So let's see a few more. Kevin Smith, thank you. Uh, hey, absolutely. The government here in Singapore, it's about as transparent as you can get, from what I've seen. And here, things definitely do work on trust. Uh, it just really boils down to transparency and trust, and it's one thing that I do appreciate about things here. That transparency. David Bay, don't turn on Skynet. Okay, Kevin Smith, thank you, appreciate it, my friend. Um, let's see, George Kaiser, where'd it go? It kind of jumped on me. Something about working from home, right? You were saying, yeah. All I know is working from home is more stressful than in the office when there are so many people in the house. You know what? That is true. That's true. Definitely true. But I just want to get back to these the Defense Production Act, and there were two companies, GM and 3M, that were doing some things in the background, and it wasn't really sitting well, with a lot of people. Then again, with some people, they were for it. But Trump ordered these companies to make medical supplies under this DPA, or Defense Production Act. 3M. So while naming 3M as one of the companies listed in his order, he criticized the company for continuing to export masks to Latin America and Canada, saying they will have a big price to pay. And we're going to take a look, particularly at the 3M situation. The other one was, of course, GM. Let me see where GM is here. Uh, let's see. According to a report from Politico, it's not entirely clear how GM reacted to the order. As Navarro said, what was going on with GM was they were trying to negotiate Apparently, they were trying to negotiate the DPA with president, and president wasn't going to have none of it. So that was GM, but 3M is the one that really got a lot of the news. And there was a statement coming out from 3M after Trump had said that there's going to be a price to pay as far as 3M exporting their goods. Um, 3M did give a response, and so it's a basic basic statements here. We work closely with the administration and this and that and this and that. We're doing what we can for them, and but then they go on to say. Ceasing all export of respirators produced in the U.S. would likely cause other countries to retaliate and do the same, as some have already done. If that were to occur, the net number of respirators being made available to the U.S. would actually decrease. That is the opposite of what we and the administration, on behalf of the American people, both seek. So this was pretty much the gist of the argument with 3M. Um, the thing is, U.S. still, there are a lot of companies who do have the capability to go ahead and create these products such as respirators. So where 3M was coming from, of course, a lot of people did not buy it. I mean, there are a lot of still companies that can manufacture these types of things. So to say that there's going to be retaliation, I mean, in some ways, of course, you can expect companies not to export as much. I mean, we talked about it last week where Vietnam was going to start to slow down exports of rice. Uh, Countries got to take care of their own. So that part is it's expected, and so this is where I sort of disagree with what 3M had to say. And then there was even a legal opinion on this, and I'll show you this clip here.
And forgive me for interrupting.
Sure.
Should a U.S. based company in a crisis like this be exporting any of its product outside of the United States, regardless who our allies are at whatever time? This is a national emergency in the United States. Should 3M be shipping any of their masks outside to Canada or Latin America?
Well, that's why I want to look at it holistically, because I can't answer that question until we step back and look at the greater whole. The question is not whether China should have masks or Canada should have masks and not the United States.
Well, should the government have the authority to tell 3M all of your masks produced in the United States need to stay in the United States right now because this is a national emergency? Or should a private enterprise have the right to say, we are keeping our agreements because we think that it could hurt the U.S. in the long run if there's retaliation? That's the point I need to get to, and then I'm afraid I have to go.
Sure. Well, the question is, the authority is there, but the goal here should be to make sure all health workers have masks, not just American health workers. A pandemic is necessarily a global emergency, not just a New York emergency, not just a U.S. emergency. The Defense Production Act would allow the government to incentivize more American companies to step in and build these masks. That's exactly what the government should be doing now.
Professor?
Not beating up 3M, but getting more people, more companies to build masks and start tooling up for the vaccine to come.
Mr. Baker,
that's what I worry about.
Okay, so I listened to it a couple times, and it seems like go after other companies, not 3M. Get other companies to do it, but leave 3M alone. It's kind of strange the way the guy worded some of these things, but respectfully, my comment to businesses would be: do what you're directed to do for the betterment of your countrymen, and leave foreign policy and trade to the government. And I say this because I've lived in various countries outside of the US, and I can tell you, in these countries, their citizens come first. They are not worrying about any other country's citizens. They are concerned about their own citizens. So, I think idealistically, yes, you want these things to happen where everyone is taken care of. But realistically, in the real world, countries are going to take care of their own first. And if you lived outside of the US or you lived outside of your home country, you you probably are going to agree with that statement where the country you live in is going to take care of their people the most. That's just the way it is. So to further add to the story, I mean, we've even had Taiwan where they don't want to ship masks to Singapore. So we're also seeing a pattern where countries restrict exports of goods essential in this crisis. So if it is a monetary crisis, if it's a monetary crisis now, which seems like we're heading into or not already there, which good will be restricted then? What good do you think is going to be restricted in a monetary crisis? Um, Besides food and all these other things, could be gold, right? So the thing is, if it's hang on, bear with me, guys. If it's things like gold, will we see a double whammy of mines being nationalized? I mean, let's not be naive. There are already state actors out there um, who are purchasing big from mines um, with contracts into the future to take production at a certain price. Um, there are state actors out there who are already doing these things, and governments are going to wake up to it, and they're going to say, "Hey, wait a minute. You know what? We're going to need our gold. We're going to need our silver. We're going to need our oil or whatever it is." Much the same like how Vietnam is saying we're going to need our rice, and they slow down exports. It's a natural thing, it's a natural thing. Governments are going to have to take care of their own people first, and when it comes to something like mines, um, you can really see how a government could very well nationalize the mine because, as David Morgan mentioned in our past interview, he mentioned how the wealth is in the land, and I'll play that clip. But Kevin Smith, how do I trust gold in Singapore? Um, for us, Kevin, we make it as transparent, much more transparent probably than a lot of other companies. Um, what I'll do, Kevin, that's a pretty deep question that I may not be entirely able to answer for you here. Um, Hang on, let me just type this in. What you can do, Kevin, go ahead and email one of our guys, and they will definitely give you a longer and lengthier, a more detailed answer than I'm able to do here right now. But we do things definitely that are different from a lot of other guys. So appreciate the question. Thank you for that. Please do email sales at silverbullion.com.sg, and one of the guys will help you. If I come across that email later on, I'll answer it myself for you as well. But please do um, contact one of our guys. And but getting back to this, the mines, things in the ground, that's where a lot of the wealth is. And we had David Morgan on, and he even said something along these lines.
Think of, I've kind of tipped my hat to the real estate investors over the years because all wealth comes from the land. It either comes from owning land and farming it or, taking off trees or going under the ground for oil or minerals. So all wealth really starts with Mother Earth. And so you've got to, take that into your thinking if you're going to look at, legacy wealth. You're going to look at how you're going to pass on wealth to several generations or a society. If you want to build, a society starts on and below the land.
Okay, society starts on and below the land. And it's a very good point there. Um, and governments know that. Okay, governments surely know this. And this is where I have a little bit of a concern, especially when it comes to mining. And my concern is because if you go back in history, what we saw in 33, I believe it was, government confiscated, expropriated, whatever you want to say it, gold. They basically took people's gold. And what did they do right after that? I believe it was even the next day. They revalued the gold to a higher price. And that's a concern where if they do go in and decide to nationalize mines or anything for that matter, they're going to take it at a certain price and possibly have it revalued to a higher price later on. And I'm saying this because we have to be real and understand that all this money printing going on, all these loans going on, got to be paid back somehow. And how does the government make money? They tax us, right? They payroll tax, whatever it is, they take in a lot of money through taxes. You get paid, they tax you. You buy something with your money, you get taxed again. And the thing is, there's not going to be enough taxes to pay for this. I think if we're all honest, there's no way taxes can pay for all of these things. So what's going to happen? Government probably will have to reach in and pull some assets or nationalize things, whatever it may be. Um, that's the concern here, especially when it comes to mines. I'm not saying mining is a bad thing to go into. Not saying that at all. Just saying for me personally, it's a concern I have, and we're gonna ask Rick Rule about that. You know, what does he think about mines being nationalized? So again, I do hope you guys will join in for that interview coming up, because nationalization is a very real thing. And I'll play you a clip. This is from South Africa, where essentially this thing is happening.
This gold mine was once owned by the nephew of President Jacob Zuma and the grandson of the former president, Nelson Mandela. But workers here say assets worth billions of dollars were sold off, and production stopped in 2009 as the property went into liquidation. The workers want the state to take over.
And if government could control the mines and they're not belongs to individuals, then everything will be transparent. Each and every day they get more money. They make like trillions of money. They'll go to our pockets.
Nationalization is not an economic policy of the government, but former ANC Youth League leader Julius Malema has made himself the face of the nationalization drive. He's using a clause from the 1955 Freedom Charter. The mineral wealth beneath the soil, the banks and monopoly industry shall be transferred to the ownership of the people as a whole.
We declared nationalization of mines a long time ago.
The document was signed by civil society organizations in 1955. It outlined what a post-apartheid South African society should look like. Some believe nationalization can work.
In the short term, there will be capital flight, but in the long term, medium to long term, the country is going to attract foreign direct investment in its own terms. Currently, of course, these resources are just being looted by multinational corporations and a small elite of politicians.
Others don't agree.
We see what is happening in a country like Zimbabwe. What guarantee do us as foreign investors in this country have that that's just not going to happen? I know there are official views from government that says nationalization won't take place in South Africa, but I don't think we're taking a strong enough stance as a country.
However, the growing class divide in South Africa is fueling the nationalization debate. Nationalizing the mining sector is controversial. Some fear it could scare away investors. So one option on the table is making mining companies pay more tax. But South Africa's mining sector is struggling. Still, workers see mine bosses earning millions while they struggle. The growing anger and unhappiness at the slow pace of transformation could make it difficult for President Jacob Zuma to be re-elected as the ANC party leader in December. Harun Matasa, Al Jazeera, Johannesburg.
Okay, this clip was actually it's a bit dated, but the point still the same. Mines are privately held, and basically these guys want the mines to be nationalized, and it's something that we can't be naive to just not think about at all, because like I say, taxes are not going to pay all of this debt that's this newly added debt. Taxes are not going to pay it. Government's going to have to reach in for something, and as noted, the Fed by right cannot loan money unless there's some type of collateral. Question is, what's the collateral? Is it more bonds, stakes in some companies? Who knows? I don't know, that's for sure. But I do know that the Fed cannot give money unless there's some type of collateralization. And this is where, a lot of people may say America is broke. It's not. You look at all the ag land, you look at all the real estate, things like that. It's not broke. It's there. And that's the troubling part, where you can't rule out the fact that certain things may be nationalized or expropriated, and that's a concern. that's the bigger picture to the smaller picture of what we're talking about today, where it's just mask. We're only talking about mask right now, but can you imagine if it blows up to something even bigger? And so once these things are in the government's hands, I suspect at some point in the future, it's going to be used to pay down all these bailouts and free things that we've been given. At some point in time, the nation's resource riches will be owned by the government or by the central bank. There'll be no other way to pay for all these bailouts, such as social benefits and social programs. And this is something that we've witnessed in Venezuela, where I'll just go straight down to this part if I can find it really quick. Um, here you go. President Nicolas Maduro claimed that the funds saved by domestic gold processing after they nationalized the mines will be allocated to government social spending in medicine, food, and education. Okay, so are we getting this? Allocated to government social spending in medicine, food, and education. So again, that's where the concern lies because again, taxes are not enough. Government's going to have to take something. So let me get a look at some of the questions here. Let's see. Michael Mona, we are going to spend all the Fed's money and default, then issue just dollars backed by gold. Michael, I hope that there is some type of a gold backing, and it does look like we're gonna be headed to central bank digital currencies. We're gonna be given digital wallets and digital currencies. It looks like the plan is to go cashless. Let's just hope there's gonna be some type of gold backing in this thing to keep everyone honest. But gold and politicians, they don't mix. Gold forces politicians, or a type of a gold standard forces politicians to be responsible. Politicians and responsible. Not sure if those two words can even be used in a. That's like social distancing. Politicians and responsibility. That's the definition of social distancing. So let's see more of your questions and comments. Let's see. Out of the Shadows movie full name. Out of the Shadows. If that's the one on Netflix, I think I watched it about a week ago. If that's the one, it's pretty good. If you have time, try and take a look at it if you can. If I'm wrong, I'll go ahead and take a look at what that movie is. So again, some more of these comments. Yeah, golden politicians don't mix. That's social distancing as well. So, in fact, just distance yourself from any politician. How about we just put it that way? Social distance yourself from all of them. What the heck? So let's see. Okay, so those are some of the concerns when it comes to nationalization. Because, like I said, this whole Defense Production Act, it's a very, very, very small sampling of the huger concern of, or the more huge concern of nationalization. So I just want to end with some commentary here, and then we'll go through some of your questions. So that was one example of what happens when a nation's currency is worthless. Talking about Venezuela, everyone here knows or should know the dollar and every other currency does have an expiration date, and I plan to ask Rick Rule that same question if currencies have an expiration date. What is of value then? It's commodities, oil, gold, silver, ag land, etc. Goes back to what David Morgan was saying, comes from the ground. So this is where we are headed to, a race for resources. I think, if we do take a step back and we're going to be honest, we're going to be heading into a race for resources. I think even Chris Martinson had pointed that out through his Peak Prosperity series. Follow him if you can as well. The Defense Production Act, Defense should be Production Act, DPA, is a small sampling of what happens when a nation is in need, where globalism pulls back to sovereignism. Countries go back to take care of their own and themselves. It's a natural thing. When guys it's difficult when the globalist mindset of all for one and one for all type of a thing. I get it. I understand that. But then again, we all live in our own sovereign countries where we have our own unique needs, and we have to take care of our own people as well. So sometimes the two can go hand in hand, sovereignism and globalism, and sometimes the two just simply do not go hand in hand. And for that, countries are always going to take sovereignism over globalism. Why? Because if they don't, those politicians will not be back in office again, and they know that. They know that. So in sovereignism, a nation's wealth may very well indeed be determined by its resources. For you and me, we're watching wealth being destroyed. We're also watching central banks desperately try to reinflate bubbles. It's a game. It's a game. They are one day going to wipe the pieces off this board and start anew. And some people call this the reset. This is why some people say, don't worry about your debt. Just run up your credit card, whatever it is, because they're going to wipe it out. Everyone starts all over again. Not so sure about that when you got the IMF calling out for keeping receipts, right? So don't let's just not assume that that's what's going to happen, where all debts will be forgiven. Thing is, if you want to win this game, or at least fare better, you got to get things like gold and silver, and even consider storing it offshore in a jurisdiction where it favors you. New York, London, Hong Kong may not be the places that you want to store in. And Swiss, with that AG, crypto AG scandal, again, there's some things that go on there as well. The thing is, whether it's mass toilet rolls or food supplies, there's simply not enough of these limited goods at current prices for the hordes of fiat money out there. And we're hearing more and more people say the Fed cannot print food. They can print all this money. They can give you 1,200, 2,000 a month, whatever it is. Your own central bank in your own country, um, they can give you money. Sure, they can, but how much food is out there? And we're already seeing reports where pork producers, meat producers, they're having to close down. So all that money still not going to get you things that you may need. So the Fed can try and print this problem away all they want. They may succeed in some things, but it's not going to succeed in everything. That's a certainty, and that's where we need things like gold and silver, because with all this printing going on, I think you guys all know, you know, that deflation is going to circle back, and it's going to hit inflation, possibly even hyperinflation. And again, this is where you want your gold and silver. It's going to help you either way. It's going to store the value of your currency. Central banks hold reserves. They hold it for a reason. Okay. And this is where you should be holding some of those reserves as well for yourself. Again, it's going to store the value of this currency when this currency gets in trouble. Currencies have an expiration date on it. You should have it. You should have currencies, but there is an expiration date on it. And for that, you need to be able to transition over from currency into something that will hold the value of that currency that once upon a time was. Um, I'm not sure how else I can explain this except, have one foot in the financial system. You can't help it. You need to. But have another foot outside of the financial system, because, things are going to change. Things are definitely going to change. And you want to put yourself in the best position you can. And so again, gold and silver, it's more than just the price. We're seeing money thrown all over the place right now, and you got to firstly understand that, and you got to understand that these things are ripe, especially now with people getting more money. All this money is going to chase after a limited supply of goods and services. That's going to cause inflation, possibly even hyperinflation at some point. So you want to have gold and silver for sure, without a doubt. Let me get to some of your questions and comments. Let's see. Um. Okay. Offshore. Sorry, guys. I'm just trying to look through this. Simon Bevan. Offshore means you don't hold it. Travel ban means I can't move till further notice. Wake up, smell the coffee, people. Blessings from Aotearoa. Um, the thing with the offshore is, it, from my perspective, I was definitely in the camp where if you don't hold it, you don't own it. And when I left the U.S., came to Singapore, and seen how things work here, I realized two things. Two things. One, very stable government, very transparent. I'm sold. I trust the place. I definitely trust the place. And the other thing for me is I cannot deny the fact that if things get really bad, my home government, as I was saying, cannot pay down all this debt. They may have to reach into people's pockets, either tax them more, uh, cut down services, whatever it is, including reaching into people's pensions, 401ks, assets, whatever it is. And I can't deny that won't happen. And so the best thing for me, or when I looked at it from that point, okay, definitely have gold and silver with me, for sure, without a doubt. But consider keeping some away from me, meaning if it's away from me, it can't be taken from me, at least by from my government, right? So I had to consider that point, and that's where I do look at offshore storing, at least outside of my own jurisdiction. So everyone's different. I get it. I understand that, but it's something you should consider. Um, it's a not it's not an easy choice, for sure. It's not, but something that you should consider. Um, okay, so let's see more more of your questions, comments. Uh, Kevin Smith, I pray for all on this board. So do I. So do I, for sure. Um, it's definitely a different time. Um, Things are headed in for surely a different direction, and life as we knew it may or may not be the same. Um, may or may not be the same. So we do have to consider a lot of these things. Chuck and Plata, would you still do a live stream with Salivate? Sure, why not? Thanks for bringing that up. Thanks for bringing that up. Salivate Meadows. I like his show. I watch him also. A little bit more of these questions. Yeah, Salivate Meadows. Yeah, sure, sure. Uh, okay, you guys got a lot of good conversations going on there. Let's see. A lot of people have maids in Singapore. I'm not one of them. That's that's for sure. I don't have one. Let's see. But people do have them for sure. Domestic helpers. Let's see. How about Liechtenstein as a jurisdiction? Um, I would love to say yes, but I don't know enough about it to be honest. So I'm not saying no. I'm definitely not saying no. I'm just saying this is Joey's question, but I'm just saying maybe look through it as best you can, and see if it fits your needs, if it fits what you want and what you need. So definitely not saying no. Okay. Uh, let's see. Are there higher premiums on breaker bars? Breaker bars. Mm, not sure what you mean by breaker bars. You talking regular silver bars? Okay. Um, let's see. Professor K. Why are we letting a handful of people destroy the world? Because we're entertained. We're entertained. We're too busy watching Kardashians. We're too busy watching baseball, basketball, whatever it is. Um, we're entertained, and as long as we're entertained, as long as we say here, you got rice in your rice bowl. You choose to not look at a lot of the things that that are going on around you. Um, why do we let it happen? From in recent times, I think a lot of it has to do with where we get our information from, especially with news media, the way they are right now. Everyone's being pacified. They try to herd people, much like cattle, herd the mentality of people and get most of the people to believe one thing, and they will stay there. Just keep getting them to believe one thing, and can't really answer you why we let it happen. And the thing is, on the broader scale, why do we let it happen? Can't answer that. On the individual scale, we're not letting it happen. What I mean by that is we're taking care of what we need to take care of, which is why I say things like, protect and provide, be a blessing, not a burden. On an individual scale, you don't have to let them, or you can deflect them as much as possible. And that's what we all got to be strong in and understand. You know, guys have money, and they some are confident and happy with what they do with it, and others, they understand that they need to put it in some type of a vehicle that can store it, especially with what's going on, and store it even in a place that it'll be there once all these things roll over and finish. So, I mean, it's just a very different situation for all of us. That's for sure. Um, let's see. Yagi one. Yagi one. You don't have to worry about being that in. I do. I do. It's like I say, for the biggest thing for me is just to pass on information. I'll give my opinion, but it's best always that you guys, you know, have your opinion as well, which is why I appreciate you guys talking about it here in chat, because as I've said before, what you guys say is more important than anything I say, because there are people who are sitting on the fence who are not so sure yet. And it's when they see your comments, they start to open up a bit. Because it's it's our program, where we're gonna have certain I don't know if bias is the right word, but we see things a certain way. Okay, and we're gonna bring forth that ideal. But with you guys, it's different. Put in your opinions, and guys who are on the fence, they see that, and they're gonna look at what you're saying, and they're gonna start to understand a bit more. And again, this is the reason why I say you guys are in a much stronger position than even I am, because the guys on the fence are looking at what you say. You can help a lot of people by sharing your experiences in your comments, your thoughts, your ideas in your comments, because that is what's going to help someone else more than anything I say. So for that, I say this all the time, and I mean it. I appreciate you guys and your comments. So keep them coming. Be thoughtful. I know there's some trolls out there, but we love you guys too. It's it's okay. Um, so anyway, a few more comments, and I'll be headed out. Got to do some things here. Roger has the virus returned there. Roger, you know what? It it's never really left. If from my observation, what I saw was, I think naturally people got relaxed about it. Naturally meaning the numbers in Singapore were pretty much always low from the start. And then from Singapore looking out into the rest of the world, we saw numbers really going exponential, and so when you see those things, you naturally tend to feel like, okay, we're safer here, we're doing better here, and you kind of start to get laxed a bit, and next thing you know, it starts to spike again. So it's never really left. I think it's more about, unfortunately, a lot of us got pretty laxed on it, and we have to tighten up. We have to tighten up on these things. Uh, Michael B, appreciate it, buddy. Thank you, appreciate that. But that's the thing with what's going on. You have to take care of it. Uh, Younger guys, if you can handle it, um, it's your battle. You have to come out of this. Older guys, pre-existing, all you can do is basically pass on your knowledge, pass on your wisdom, do what you can as well. Um, but you got to do your best to stick around as well, because younger guys, they're still gonna need you. So you got to stay healthy as well. We all do. We all have to stay healthy and get through this somehow. Okay, so let's see. Manchtal is not what you are seeing, Patrick. What the MSM is showing us. You know, it MSM. Not sure if I understand the question, but the way it works for me is I look at different sources, mainstream media, alternative media, um, and extremely biased, way on the left, way on the right. I mean, I try to look at all of these. Within that range of extremes, you're going to start to whittle things down and find an area where the probability seems to be here in this area, and it's what I do. You do go through a lot, but the thing is, the way the media is right now, you can't take everything they say at face value. And unfortunately, and I see this, I see it where my old commander, my old commander from when I used to serve in the Air Force, he consistently will put out things from one news source time and time and time and time again. And for him, or for anybody that does that, you got to open up. You cannot consistently take news from just one place. You have to see what the other side is saying. You, there was a time where the word moderate was a good word. Today, the word moderate seems to be a bad word, where you either have to be this or that. You can't be moderate anymore, and that's what's really killed a lot of the way that people would think, where they would see two sides, but no more. They either have to be this or that. You got to get back to being a moderate. Don't just take news from one place. You got to take it from other places as well. If you notice, like with us, yes, we like gold and silver, but we also have to acknowledge crypto. We can't be blind to it just because we may or may not like it. We have to take a look at it. Even fiat. We don't like fiat, but you do hear me saying have cash. You do hear me saying have cash. You do hear me saying have some Bitcoin, have some crypto. So there's things you got within that range. You have to find the probability. Most likely, it looks like this type of a thing. Not either way, left or right. Anyway, kind of ranting on there. Um, so anyway, David Begley, Council on Foreign Relations. Yeah, there are a bunch of characters there. That's for sure. Um, let's see. Um, yeah, regarding the pandemic thing, I mean, we're never gonna know the truth because everybody's gonna say different things. Um, but one of those guys will probably be telling the truth, but it's you're gonna hear too many things, and it's gonna be harder and harder to figure out what truth is. And we're all biased, right? We all want to believe things a certain way, so it's it's not easy. It's not easy. A couple more questions, and I'll have to be heading out. Moderate means you can actually debate things sensibly. George Kaiser, the good and the bad of it. The good, you sensibly see things from different angles. The bad, where the bad part, I'm not going to say bad part about it, but the part where people take advantage of moderates is when you go on their side, they try to pull you in. And then when you see things on the other side, then they try to push you away. And then all the vile statements start to come out. He's a flip flopper, this, that, this, that. It's not so. I tend to look at it as, you know, people tend to be, through hatred, people tend to be blind a bit to be able to see what's going on. But then again, love is blind as well. So that's where we have to find that middle ground. So anyway, I'm really ranting on here. So you guys, before I say too much and put my foot in my mouth, I've probably done it a few times. I'm gonna head out. Got some other things that I need to do. Um, I don't want to rant on too much already at this point, but you guys are really great. I do appreciate you guys being here and coming out. Ray Foley, thank you, thank you. Corbett report, whole lot of critical thinking. Corbett, I followed him for a while. I'm not sure why I don't follow him as much, but okay. Corbett report, Ray Foley, thank you. So again, you guys really take care of each other. Be as safe as you can. Um, do what you need to do. Be a blessing, not a burden. Protect and provide. Do all of these things, and definitely make sure you have something outside of the monetary system that we're in. Whether, as I say, whether it's crypto, silver, gold, whatever it is, because this financial system we're in, it's going to transition into something else. So this is why I say cash has an expiration date on it. So take care of yourselves out there, and as always, I'm going to say this: saddle up for what's coming ahead, and silver up as well. I'll see you guys next week. God bless.